In this video, we're going to look at what happens during a chemical reaction, particularly combustion. We're going to look at propane. Propane is what we use in our grills and different types of, it's a gas. You can light it on fire, and it looks like this. So this is propane, C3H8, 3 carbons, and these are hydrogens. We have 8 hydrogens. So they're all stuck together. And when we react it, when we burn it, it has to react with oxygen. We have to have oxygen to start a fire and keep a fire going. And this is not propane. It's similar to propane, but if I light a fire like this, I need oxygen and keep that going. So this has to react with this, and I have oxygens here. Oxygen is O2, and they have a double bond. So when you first start the reaction, in this lighter, nothing happens. But when you start a lighter, you actually have a spark that happens. So I have a dead lighter here. This lighter, if you look at the tip of it, I don't know if you can see it, there's actually a spark that occurs. You can see a spark happening. That spark gives it energy. When you give molecules energy, they will start to do things. Instead of just moving around, you're actually going to give it enough energy to break apart. So propane and oxygen, they're fairly stable if they're just sitting there, but if you give it enough energy, it will break apart. And so this molecule is going to break apart. Okay? So you break bonds in every chemical reaction. You always break bonds. I have these things here. These are also breaking. So the oxygens break apart. Okay, so now I have a mess of atoms. Okay? In my mess of atoms, this is my mess of atoms. My mess of atoms is very, very unstable. This is unstable. It is also very high energy. Atoms do not want to be apart. They do not want to be high energy. They want to be stable and low energy. And the way they do that is by coming back together and forming new things. Now, it's not going to come back to this. We are not going to reform this stuff because that's what we started with. And it's always going to try to form something that is more stable than what we started with. So in this case, we are going to form carbon dioxide and water. And the atoms, so if I'm going to make carbon dioxide, it's CO2. Carbon, so I need 1 carbon, and I need 2 oxygens. Okay, so this is they're gonna reform new bonds, so they click back together. I'm gonna form CO2, so C and 2 O's. Now, where did this carbon come from? It didn't come from just nowhere. The only thing that has carbon in it is this propane right here. So this propane has carbon. That carbon broke apart. That carbon came back together with the oxygen from the air, and I formed this thing. I didn't add anything new. These are all the same things I started with. Okay, so I could make 3 carbon dioxides if I did that. I can also make 4 water molecules. So I'm gonna do this fast time now. Here we go. Okay, I have my 3 carbon dioxide molecules now. So now I'm going to make water. So water looks like this. It's got oxygen. And it's got hydrogen. So we know H2O. So there's my O and 2 H's. So that's 1 water. Okay, I have my 4 waters now. And where did my water come from? Well, the oxygen, it didn't come from nowhere. The only place I have oxygen is in the air. And then the hydrogen also does not come from just a random place. It came from the only place that had hydrogen in it, that propane. So I make new things, and now the question is, why can't they go back to the original things? Well, remember, we do not want to be unstable and high energy. All these things here are much lower energy, and they are very, very stable. So this molecule here, this CO2, has what we call a double bond. If I look at the bond energy for CO double bonds, so this CO double bond is 745 kilojoules per mole, we say. It's a lot of energy. It is a ton of energy to break that bond. This energy, it tells me that this is a very strong bond. The other bonds that are in propane and oxygen here are the CC bond, which is not very strong, the OO double bond, which is also not super strong, the CH bond, also not super strong. So these other things are not super strong, but the CO bond is super strong. The OH bond is pretty strong from water, and these are very stable, very low energy.